This is my brutally honest review of the Newport NT600 electric outboard motor. I am going to start with the price. The Newport NT600 electric outboard motor costs $2,500, and the proprietary Newport brand 70 amp hour battery is $1,700. Then you are all in for $4,200. Is that expensive? Yes. I won't pretend that is cheap. If your budget isn't ready for spending over twice as much as you would for a comparable 4-stroke gasoline outboard, like this one shown here, then switching to an electric outboard like this Newport NT600 might not be right for you. But it's a lot cheaper than the competition. It is $1,700 cheaper than the next lowest price competitor in the 6 horsepower electric outboard game. The top electric outboard motors competing with the Newport NT600 are the ePropulsion Navy Evo 3.0 and the Torqeedo Cruise 3.0, which are both also rated to be 6 horsepower equivalent electric outboard motors. All 3 of these electric outboard motors are using a 3 kilowatt tiller controlled motor. The Newport NT600 outboard is $1,400 cheaper than the ePropulsion Navy 3 and $1,800 cheaper than the Torqeedo Cruise 3. Then, if you include the recommended battery pack for each one of these, yes, they all have their own special branded battery packs, the cost difference is even greater. The very interesting 48 volt 70 amp hour battery pack from Newport costs $1,700, which I will show you later in this video. The 48 volt 60 amp hour battery for the ePropulsion Navy is $2,000. And that really big 24 volt 153 amp hour Torqeedo battery is $3,000. If you buy the Newport motor and battery from a place like Tiny Boat Nation and use my discount code, the whole setup is over $1,700 cheaper than the ePropulsion setup. $3,100 cheaper than what Torqeedo wants. But you may ask, Wayne, can these also use third-party batteries? In other words, batteries made by someone else? Yes. All of these can run on third-party batteries, meaning you can shop around and assemble a setup that works for your specific needs and budget, giving you options for spending less on batteries, or longer range and runtime, or lighter weight.
So if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, and then don't forget, if you want to see more of Wayne the Boat Guy, subscribe.
Thank you. Now, continuing with this brutal honesty, I'm going to be brutally honest about the top speed of the Newport NT600. It is not fast. So let's see what the top speed is in my 150-pound flat-bottom wooden skiff. This is a 13-foot wooden skiff. We're wide open right now. And we are hitting 9 miles an hour. And I lean farther forward, we're going even faster. 9.5. Any 6 horsepower gasoline outboard is going to have a higher top end speed than this electric outboard.
Ready?
Yep. Of course, on your boat, this motor may be faster or may be slower. There's a lot of variables. But it is considerably faster than the small Newport NT300 and all of the other 3 horsepower electric outboards. Like this ePropulsion Spirit 1.0 Plus that I am running here on the exact same boat I used to test the Newport NT600. The NT600 is almost twice as fast. All of those smaller 3 horsepower electric outboards use a motor that is only around 1,000 watts, or 1 kilowatt. Not nearly as powerful as the 3 kilowatt motor used in the NT600. Now let's take a look at some of the features of the Newport NT600. It's not too heavy. It weighs about exactly the same as a 6 horsepower gas outboard motor, and it has a handle on the back. The motor has this optional bolt-on cavitation plate. I've already been out using it, and this works great right here. We've also got this reverse lock to keep the motor from kicking up. Click it up into free kick, and then you're able to pick the motor up when you need to tilt the motor. We have a tilt release on this side. You lift that up when the motor's tilted to be able to release it to put it back in the down position. Got this very cool handle, and you can also lift the motor from inside of the boat right under here. There's a little hand grip in here. Look how easy it is to reposition this handle. Just pick this up, click it in over there, pick it up, back to center, over there. That's very cool. And of course you can change the angle of the tiller and put it in a, if you're standing up in your boat and you want to have it angled up, it doesn't extend, but you can buy an extension for this. And of course it folds down. Offset, it's kind of nice because if you're in a small boat like this, I can have it sit here and still be going straight, which that's kind of cool. I like how they put the very clear forward and reverse right here on this. I like that it's there. At a glance, I know that's forward. The display has a ton of information, calibration options, configurations, and it provides more information than probably any other small electric outboard. So right now the motor is in neutral, forward, reverse, and then when we take this off, I think it switches it to park, yep. You can also change how the throttle responds to make it better suited for smaller, lighter boats or for larger and heavier boats. You can also put in your specific battery information so that the display can give you some better estimates for battery life, etc. I always double check my battery life with the Bluetooth app for my battery before I trust any battery metering that comes with a motor. Speaking of batteries, let's talk more about batteries. I'll show you the optional LoPro battery you can get for the Newport NT600 and also some battery alternatives. Let's talk a little bit about this LoPro battery. I can pick it up, and it's like a suitcase. Low profile, that's the reason they call it LoPro. The battery is actually a very cool part of this setup. It feels very rugged, got rubbery corners on it. These are stackable. And if you use it with the Newport NT600, there is a data communication cable that connects in here. And I believe that talks to the motor a little bit better to let it know more about the battery life and the battery health. Now, when I got my motor and the battery, it came with a cable. This end connects to the motor, and these are the special connectors to this battery, which I'll go into in a minute. And then it also came with a cable that connects to a regular battery with posts. More on that in a little bit. Let me show you about these connections and how this hooks in. And these just press it and you'll hear a click. So they press in, there's a little rubber gasket around here, and hear that click? And then I'll put the negative on. Just gonna have to wiggle it around, there you go. Click. And what's neat, see, they pivot and they swing. They're not gonna come disconnected until you click this little button on the side and pull it off. So I think that's really nice. Like, that's something I'd love to see every marine battery have, that kind of connector on there, because it feels very strong and sturdy and connects really well. I feel a lot better about that than I do just about a couple of open posts with a nut on them. Let's look at some of the stuff in the manual here real quick, some of the specs. This battery is a 70 amp hour, 51.2 volt battery, which means it's a 48 volt battery. Most of your lithium iron phosphate batteries are slightly higher voltage. The battery dimensions are 20.1 inches long by 20.1 inches wide by 5.4 inches high, or 510 centimeters by 510 centimeters by 137 centimeters tall. It weighs 66 pounds. I also have the charger, which is this nice Newport branded intelligent charger. This is an 8 amp max charger. So if this battery is completely flat, I think it takes like 8 or 9 hours to fully charge it. But remember, if you're out in your boat, chances are you're not running your battery to 0. So when you get back, you might be able to completely recharge it in 4, 5, or 3 hours. You might be able to build your own setup with different 48 volt batteries. Just make sure you get ones that are like IP67 rated, which means that they are more waterproof or water resistant, because if you don't, they can leak water, that gets into the BMS system, and then the battery's no good. And you blame the battery when actually it's because you had it in a boat and it got wet. Here is a Powerhouse 32 amp hour, 48 volt or 51.2 volt battery. I have it connected to the cables they provided. So we connect to the Anderson connector. The motor's going beep, 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 like it does with the other one, because this isn't connected. We can't connect the comms cable to anything, so there is no comms able to happen with this battery. So I have to check this battery via Bluetooth, and as of right now it has 71% state of charge. So let's see if it works. Power on our motor. And there we go. The display on the motor shows 100% state of charge right now. And that's probably because, well, there is no data cable for this. You may reconfigure this to recognize that this is a 32 amp hour battery. And if you have it fully charged and it's at 100%, it might match up pretty good. Some of these things do. Also, it's making a very low beeping noise when I'm running the throttle, because it's telling me that the comms cable is not connected. You probably can switch that feature off as well, so that way it doesn't tell you all the times that comms isn't connected, but the beep is much quieter than this beep, which sounds like a heart monitor. And of course, with this being a 32 amp hour battery, 2 of these aren't as powerful as that LoPro, because 2 of these would be 64 amp hours and that's 70 amp hours. But if you had 3 of them, now you're at 96 amp hours. And these might store in your boat a lot better than that, depending on the boat configuration. So that's something to consider. Now let's get brutally honest about the flaws with the Newport NT600, because there are flaws. The first one I want to bring up is the beeping. When you connect the battery to the motor, it starts beeping like a heart monitor in a hospital. This beeping is because the magnetic emergency motor shutoff is not connected. I haven't turned the motor on yet, and I can't find a way to turn off the motor when it is connected to the battery. So as long as that kill switch is not attached, it will beep. And I haven't figured out a way to disable that. Another more crucial flaw is when you use the Newport NT600 with the LoPro battery. It uses this special cable to monitor the battery. It has to go into this port at a 90-degree angle, and it has to be this angle because there's pins that line up inside of here. And this sticks out from the edge of the case. And I'm concerned that this is something that will get broken or busted if it gets bumped in any way. Now, if you're able to have this in a secure space in your boat, where everything is underneath of a panel or whatever, and this doesn't move around or get bumped, you're fine. But for somebody who's got to leave it out in the open, you plug this cable in here, and that is definitely a place that things can get banged. And it's a shame because these are so good and so rigid. I mean, look, I can tuck them back like that. They're way out of the way. They pivot. They're very nice connectors. These other data ports for if you're running a second battery, same thing. I worry they can get messed up. I actually put the rubber covers from something else on top of these to try to keep them from getting any corrosion or anything. You know, saltwater environment, I'm not sure how these will hold up. And lastly, the display. These displays keep getting better, but this one is still quite hard to see in certain sunlight situations. I have to shade it with my hand to be able to read some of the information on the display when I'm out on a sunny day. All right, let's take an honest look at other electric alternatives that are cheaper than the NT600. If you are running a smaller boat, like 12 or 14 feet, and you do not have the need to go over 5 miles an hour, there are several 1 kilowatt electric outboards that do a great job and cost less than the Newport NT600. For example, the Newport NT300, which is the very first electric outboard motor I reviewed, costs about $2,400 with a battery, making it $1,800 cheaper than the NT600. And the Remigo 1 and ePropulsion Spirit 1.0 Plus are also good options that are priced around $3,000. I have review videos of all of these and a discount code to buy all of these options from Tiny Boat Nation. So let me ask you, what do you think about the Newport NT600 so far? Let me know in the comments. People always ask about range and runtime. My experience with every electric outboard, from the smallest to the biggest ones I've tested, is if you run it full throttle, you're only going to get anywhere between 40 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes of runtime at full throttle. And that has to do with the size of the battery that's attached to it. And quite honestly, if you need to be going a lot farther than that, then get a bigger battery, an additional battery, if the motor supports it. And buy a motor that supports an additional or bigger battery. If you need to go really far, maybe an electric outboard isn't right for you. But for a lot of us, the speeds that we operate our boat are a lot of times nowhere near full throttle, and these things will last several hours if you stay off the throttle. So here is my brutally honest opinion of the Newport NT600. If you have the means to get this 6 horsepower equivalent electric outboard versus a 3 horsepower equivalent electric outboard, I really think this is the one to get. I'm very impressed with it. It doesn't seem cheaply made. It's imperfect, absolutely, but it's a good motor. And it gives you a lot more performance than a 3 horsepower equivalent electric outboard for not a lot more money. And this battery isn't perfect either, but it's really great. And in your boat, this thing might sit in there really well. And it might be something that you really are able to store safely. I love the battery connectors. I don't like the communication cable, but I like that battery. And I think this motor is a huge step in the right direction for the future of electric outboard motors. And not to give you any type of pressure whatsoever, but if you are considering the NT600, third-party batteries, or something else from ePropulsion or Newport, I do have discount codes with Tiny Boat Nation to help offset the cost of any of those items. I'll put those links in the comments and in the video description, as well as YouTube shopping links if you prefer to shop that way. The NT600 clearly is a game changer by being so much cheaper than the other leading 3 kilowatt electric outboards, while still delivering what appears to be a high quality product with great features. With so many people who are put off by the dramatically higher prices of electric outboards when compared to similar horsepower gasoline outboard motors, this NT600 doesn't actually change the game for a person with a tight budget, because it could take a very long time to justify the higher upfront cost, especially for someone who only uses it occasionally and if you do your own maintenance. But it does change the game for ePropulsion and for Torqeedo with their 3 kilowatt outboards. Why would someone choose their far more expensive product when this one looks like the better buy?